During my recent bout with the flu, I ended up going down a Pinterest rabbit hole, and I found a fun fold I had to try, the Zig Zag fun fold. It's got such a cool layered look, but it's surprisingly simple to make. Now, the version I'm sharing today is a little different from most of the Zig Zag card templates I've seen online. Instead of the usual angle cut from the center line to the left-hand side, this one leaves us with a little 3-inch by 3-inch square on the left-hand side. In this video, I'll show you how to cut and fold the base, add your pattern paper mats, and at the end, I'll share a few more card examples using this same fold. Hey everyone, it's Lean from ColoradoLean.com. Welcome back to the craft room. Let's talk a little bit about the papers that we're going to be using. And this is going to be a very simple, very easy card. I'm going to start with a piece of, I guess this is an ivory colored cardstock. This is from the Coffee and Cream Recollections paper pack. I'm also going to be using a 6x6 paper pad called Lost and Found. This is from My Mind's Eye with a copyright date of 2011. So let's set that aside and start working on our card base. So to cut my card base, I am bringing in my Tim Holtz and Tonic Studios Rotary Media Paper Trimmer. This is my go-to trimmer if I am cutting a 110-pound card in portrait style, or if I'm cutting 12 by 12 paper. So I will line this up and trim it to 5.5 inches. And now we're going to do some scoring. I will have close-up photos of these score lines on the corresponding blog post at ColoradoLean.com. So let's go ahead and start this on the 11-inch side. And our first score will be at 3 inches. And our second and last score will be at 6 3/4. Now, while we still have our paper trimmer out, I'm going to rotate this so that my 3-inch panel is now in the corner. And with my scoring tool, I'm going to make a little mark at 3 inches. You can certainly do this with a pencil, but I prefer to do it this way so I don't have to worry about erasing pencil lines. Now I'm going to bring in my Fiskars paper trimmer. What I want to do is I want to come from the left-hand side on my 3-inch mark and cut down to the 3-inch score line. So the easiest way I have found to do this is to line my blade up on the 3-inch mark here on the guide ruler. And then I will line my card up at 3 inches. And I'm carefully going to close my guide, make sure I'm still at 3 inches. And then I'm going to push my blade down and up. And that will give me a cut at the 3-inch mark. It's a little bit over, but that is totally fine. Now what we want to do, according to our template, is we need to cut this angle and remove the top portion of this panel here. So the easiest way I have found to do this is to fold my 3-inch panel back. So I'm going to get that out of my way. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up in my paper trimmer from the top of this score line to this corner right here. And again, I hope this is in frame. If not, again, the pictures will be on the blog post. So this is going to be a little tricky. I'm going to move my blade out of the way. And I am going to have to tip this up so I can see it. Okay, so I am lined up in this corner as well as at the top of that score line. So to make sure I get clean cuts on my corners, I am going to lift up my guide a little bit. And then I'm able to remove this piece. So this is what we have. Turn that way. Let's go ahead and fold and burnish our score lines. And our Z-fold card base is finished. And I had chosen 3 different pieces of pattern paper from my paper pad. And for this sentiment, I am going to let the paper do the work. So I am going to cut my front panel from right here. So this will be my front panel. This will be my angled panel in the middle, and this will be my back panel. So let's go ahead and start making some cuts. I'm going to bring in my 8.5 inch Tim Holtz Guillotine paper trimmer, and we're going to start with the back panel. Now this piece is a regular 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card. And I will cut this down 1/4 inch smaller. So it will be 4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. I am going to next cut my little greeting out of the front. And again, this is a 3 by 3 inch panel. So I will trim this down to 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. And this actually fits perfectly in that spot. Now comes the only tricky part about cutting our pattern paper. Because this is a light colored cardstock, I don't have to add anything in to write on. And I will be writing on the inside of this middle panel. So this piece is going to go here on the outside. This piece measures 5.5 inches tall at the corner. And it is approximately 3 3/4 inch wide. So I am going to cut my panel down to 3.5 by 5 1/4. And because there's a little bit of an opening here, I do want this side of my paper. So I will cut this to 3.5 by 5 1/4. Now I'm going to bring in a pencil. And to get our angled cut, I'm going to place this back in my paper trimmer. And from the bottom of my paper, I am going to make a mark at 2 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to bring it down to the bottom, just for my own preference. And I'm going to make a mark at 5 inches from the bottom of the panel. Now what I'm going to do, and it might be a little difficult to see here on the video, I'm going to place my paper in the trimmer so that the blade lines up with this mark and this mark here. And again, there will definitely be close-up pictures on the blog post, so you can definitely check that out there. Now let's see if we need to make any adjustments. And that cut perfectly. If you have a lighter colored pattern paper and you feel that you do need a mat, I do have an example of that here. I was playing around and I just grabbed cardstock. That's why this one is bright lime green. So this black panel, let me get my notes to make sure I'm saying the right numbers. This black panel is the one I just cut from my pattern paper. So it is 3.5 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. And it fits nicely right there. And then for this panel, this is cut to 3 1/4 inches wide by 5 inches tall. And you would make your mark on the right-hand side at 2.5 inches from the bottom and 4 3/4 of an inch from the top. And that would line up just like that so that you could mat your layer. And it would look like that. Now, another thing to point out, if you decide to cover both sides of this middle layer, you will have to remind yourself, keep in mind which side to cut your panels at. So on the side that would be seen on the front of the card, I made my marks at 3 inches on the right-hand side. If you were to do this same layer on the inside, then your 3-inch mark would be on the left side. So the easiest way to keep that in mind is to have your panel in front of you before you make those cuts. And then that way you'll know, okay, I'm cutting this side, so the right-hand side is where I need my mark. Okay, now I'm doing inside. The left-hand side is where I need to do my mark. Let's go ahead and start gluing our card panel together. And there is our finished card. This would look so beautiful sitting up on a shelf like this. So you can very easily leave this piece open. And if you wanted, you could also cover that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this closed. I know that sort of defeats the purpose of the Z-fold card, but that is just my particular preference. And there we go. So let me go ahead and show you some of the other cards I made with this Zig Zag fun fold. I started off with this adorable little Christmas card. And I stamped my sentiment on the inside. Now this pattern paper is from the Hobby Lobby Winterberry pattern paper pack. It is an 8.5 by 11 pad. And this is from 2019. The sentiment is from the Pink Paisley Together for Christmas stamp set. And that's stamped beautifully with Gina K amalgam ink in obsidian black. I did this cute little hello card. The hello is from the Honeybee Stamps Hello Stamp and Die set. And I just used the word die for that. And the paper came from a Colorbok 6x6 designer light bright paper pad. But I have had this paper pad for years. It is very bright. It is very pretty. And there are a ton of different pattern options. And the final card I did is this adorable little birthday card. This is a double-sided paper. So this piece right here is the back side of this. And I just wanted to get the birthday candles in there. The paper for this card is from a Simon Says Stamp 6x6 paper pad pack. It was just a sample pack that I received in a kit. I don't recall which one it was. I will look that up and put that on the blog post. And then the birthday stamp is one I have had for many, many years. And I don't know what company I got this from, but it is a happy birthday stamp with a party hat, a cupcake, a candle, and a little sentiment that says, make a wish. I did color the party hats with my Copic markers. I used YG17, YR68 for one hat, and I used B12 and B28 for the other hat. And for the center panel, I just used a piece of Recollections cardstock that I thought went really well with the rest of the pattern paper. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you had fun trying this Zig Zag fun fold with me. I'd love to know, have you made a Zig Zag card before? And do you prefer to leave that front panel so that it swings open? Or do you like to have it glued down for a more layered look? Let me know down in the comments. I'm always curious how other card makers put their own twist on these fun folds. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a crafty friend. And as always, happy crafting, and I'll see you again next Monday. Bye.